a cup, settle in, and turn it up. It's time for a couple of drips. Coffee, conversation, and occasional quips. Here's your host, Kris Grainger.
Hello and welcome to episode 1 of A Couple of Drips. This hopes to be a podcast that is vaguely entertaining, talks about coffee, and has some stimulating and possibly comic conversation. My guest today is the wonderful local hero, stand-up guy, Mr. Danny Davies.
Hello.
Good morning, Danny. How are you?
I'm really good, mate. Your intro music is fantastic. The imagery of that music is you driving in some sort of 1970s American muscle car.
I was going for sort of spy movie meets kind of comic thing.
Yeah,
you know,
I can sort of picture a cat running across like at the top of an old bin in a Detroit side street as you come cruising by. It's awesome.
Yeah, you've cheapened it now.
Yeah, I know. I didn't think it was as good as I said, really, if I'm honest.
Welcome, Danny. It's lovely to have you here.
It's good to be here.
Let's do the coffee thing first.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the fantastic stuff we're drinking, which is from Darkwoods Coffee up in Yorkshire. And this is an unusual one, especially to start the series with. This is barrel-aged Common Grounds, and it's supposed to have notes of vanilla, dried fruits, and milk chocolate.
It's really nice. I mean, I'm supposed to be sort of savouring this and drinking and talking about it, but I've already drank about a cupful already. It's absolutely fantastic.
It is really good. I'm not sure I get vanilla with it, but I do get whiskey.
Yeah. It tastes like what you have after a meal when you've been like to an expensive meal, and at the end of the night, someone says, "Let's not drink any more alcohol, but let's put alcohol
Let's
in
have
a
a
cup
liqueur
of
coffee."
Yeah, it tastes
absolutely.
like that.
Yeah, no, it does. It doesn't taste like. It tastes like, do you remember in the 90s there was this move towards people started flavouring coffee beans, and it was terrible. You kind of had your sort of caramel coffee beans, and your grinder would smell of awful coffee for months afterwards. I remember a friend of mine used to buy me these caramel beans, and I hated them. They were absolutely revolting. But this isn't flavoured at all. It's just where it's stored.
It does. Yeah, the thing, what you're talking about in the 90s with the artificially flavoured ones, whereas this is natural. But I remember
we moved from that to syrups then, which is better.
Yeah, but still not as good as something more natural. But those flavoured, artificially flavoured ones, you'd go to like some sort of food festival or farmers gathering, and there'd be somebody saying, "I've got this amazing coffee," and we'd all be going, "Oh, it smells of candy floss. It smells of Lynx deodorant," and somehow convincing ourselves that we liked it.
Didn't taste like it.
No. You'd get home and you'd have one sip and you go, "It smells amazing. It tastes disgusting."
Yeah, absolutely revolting. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, anyway, so this is Darkwoods Barrel-Aged Common Grounds, and it's very unusual. I wouldn't like make espresso out of it or anything, but if you're having it kind of drip, I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's not as dark to look at as I thought it might be, but it packs a punch.
It's very nice.
I can't get my head around the fact it feels naughty, because it's got that alcohol hint. It feels like it's naughty to drink, but it isn't. It's alcohol free, but it's fantastic.
Yeah. If anyone's interested, I'll put a link in the blurb so you can get hold of the coffee. Danny has just finished his.
I'm sorry.
Just give him a top up. There
I'm
we go.
such a coffee whore.
Moving swiftly on. So, Danny, you should perhaps tell people a little bit about yourself, how we met, and what you do day to day, and more importantly, what you do in the evenings.
Yeah. Well, first thing I've got to say is this is the first podcast I've ever done. Your setup here is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
I can't believe you own this. I mean, are they your swans out there on the lake?
They are my swans, but I'm still not allowed to eat them.
You see, you're not royalty.
No.
That's the difference. Although, who'd want to be royalty at the moment? Move swiftly on. No, I'm 48. It sounds like my dating profile now as well. I know, I'm boyish, aren't I? I'm 48. I'm originally from Cornwall, even though in 1989 my family moved us away from the seaside because they thought we deserved a better life and took us from near St Ives in Cornwall to Cannock. In Staffordshire,
okay. Well, that's an interesting move.
As you can imagine, we're all delighted.
Yes.
Absolutely delighted. Who wants the seaside every day? And then we met through...
Can you drive a tractor? Sorry, that's a stereotype, isn't it?
What, right now? It'd be a bit awkward. You've got the land for it. What, do you want to go and herd up your wild sheep?
Just round up the geese and the sheep. And,
no, we met through mutual acquaintances, obviously. It turns out the more time we spent together, it turns out the more people we actually knew we had in common.
Yeah.
But what I
think
can't remember.
Staffordshire's a bit like that, isn't it? You know,
I didn't know that until I moved here, that everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
And everybody you go out with has been out with people you know as well.
Yeah,
so,
that can be a problem.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of shared DNA going on in Staffordshire.
There is.
Yeah. But did we meet at the comedy event in Stoke?
Well, I was trying to remember this, whether we met at a comedy event or a mutual friend's, because we have a mutual friend who had a Tiswas party.
Oh my God,
where
the
we were
Gunge
throwing
party.
custard pies and things at each other, and I can't remember if we met at that or if it was at the.
I think it was
thing.
at the Gunge thing.
Yeah,
which I remember being incredible fun, but freezing cold.
Absolutely freezing cold and dangerous. Quite a few people fell over.
Yeah, and quite a lot of alcohol consumed. By me,
Inevitable.
Especially. I can't speak for anyone else, but I know I drank far too much. Yeah, I don't think I offended anyone or picked a fight with anybody, but there was a lot of alcohol.
Not on that night, no.
No, that's probably another night. No. But, and then we were at the Sara Pascoe gig up in Stoke at the old...
Fantastic, which you were performing at.
I know. That was terrifying, actually, because... I don't know if anyone or if you know about the ROFL Rothal Comedy Club, which...
No, tell.
It used to be at the old, I think it's called the old post office in Burslem, and that was where that gig was.
Yeah, fantastic venue.
Yeah, it's now moved to Bar Social in Limelight Boulevard in Newcastle, and it's awesome. It's a professional comedy night. It's all headline acts.
It's a great venue as well.
It is. It's really good. Yeah. But that gig that I did, what Lee Jones, who's the guy that runs the gig, used to do was he'd say, right, we're going to have a professional opening act. We're going to have a couple of guys doing a bit of open stuff in the middle. So sort of amateur guys trying out new material. Yeah. And then a headline act who was obviously paid decent money. And what it really did was gave the professional acts, a chance to earn some money and get their name out there. Yeah. But it also gave us amateur guys a chance to sort of play to 100 plus people, which you would never get to do normally.
Great opportunity.
But I turned up, I think it was the third time I'd done it, and I'd always done okay. I'm not going to sit here and say I was amazing, but I always held my own. And I went into the green room, and Sara Pascoe's just sitting there, and I'm automatically just beside myself.
And she'd only just made it at the time. She was just breaking through, wasn't she?
Yeah. And I don't know how to phrase this, because it's going to sound really odd, because you sort of expect when you meet celebrities that they're going to feel... like celebrities, they're going to have an aura about them. Yeah. But she really did just feel like a normal person sitting in a room.
This is the thing that I was going to comment on is that I did run into her, and I'll tell you the one and only line that she said to me when we ran into each other shortly. But she did seem very grounded, very down to earth, and she can sort of play quite naive character sometimes. I saw her on QI a few weeks ago. She's quite naive, but incredibly intelligent actually, and really got her head screwed on.
She did a podcast. I think it was last year. It was all about the human body, the people, and there was a lot of stuff about the sex industry, how women were mistreated and stuff. Brilliant. Very intelligent woman. But sorry to cheapen it now, but when I talk about this fantastically intelligent woman, and I'll lower it again. But when I got there, they said, who wants to open? Yeah. And sort of opening it's not viewed as this amazing spot, but it does carry a little bit of weight because you've got to sense the mood of the room and get them ready for the night ahead.
It takes some balls to do the opening because you're essentially the warm-up guy.
Yeah. And I was told I was doing 10 minutes for 10 quid or something. And they said, do you mind opening? Because nobody else wants to do it. And I'm a bit of a gobshite, so I thought, yeah, I'll do it. I said, do you want me just to do 10 minutes? And they went, no, if you could do sort of 20, 25 minutes.
Real.
Now, you've only rehearsed to do 10. Yeah. So, thankfully, I had sort of various things I could say. Yeah. And I absolutely loved it. And
you can always rip into the audience a bit,
Well, a lot. I'm not sure if it was the Sara Pascoe gig or one that I did before, but the entire front row, there was about 14 lads, and they were obviously on some sort of stag do or alcohol-fueled gathering, and unfortunately they destroyed the girl that was on before me. They'd really ruined her 10-minute set. So I went on thinking I was going to do 10 minutes and ended up doing 15 minutes because I spent the first 5 minutes having to sort out the naughty children, I suppose, is the only way. And the only way I could do it was to just be really brutal. And it shut them all up, actually. But
yeah, great.
It's I suppose the moral of that is audience participation is not always welcomed.
Not always.
Not at comedy events, no.
Not always welcome.
No.
Not always welcome. So, yeah, I mean, I met Sarah at that gig. But only fleetingly. I don't know if you remember, but the toilets, you have to go right past all of the audience in that venue.
Yeah.
And the toilets are right down at the front.
Next to the green room, yeah.
Next to the green room. And I think there were 3 toilets and people were queuing for all of them. And there was a disabled toilet. And when I met Sarah, she came out of the disabled toilet, looked at me, handed me the door handle and went, "It fucking stinks in there, and it's not me." And that's the only thing Sara Pascoe ever said to me. So,
but in the green room, I mean, I'm an amateur comedian, so I'm not going to make out that I'm hanging around with Jimmy Carr and people like that. But I have met some quite nice.
I think
people.
you probably should for tax purposes.
Yeah, Jimmy Carr. But in that room, she was the most down-to-earth person. You could actually just... And when I came back from being on stage, she was going through her own notes and things, but she actually said, people were really laughing. That was really good. And I don't know, I always expect celebrities to be really inaccessible. And she was really nice.
Some of them are. I've met 1 or 2.
Oh, go on.
Well, I couldn't possibly... No, but when you do that awful thing when you're meeting a celebrity and you've planned in your mind what you're going to say to them, and you've got it laid out and you've got it planned and you know what you're going to say to them, and then when you speak to them, you just can't trip over it. And I remember meeting Eddie Izzard in the 90s, and he'd done a one-word improv show with the wonderful Neil Malarkey and Suki Webster and Steve Frost, the fantastic Steve Frost, at Stafford Gatehouse Theatre. And I remember Eddie had this fantastic fluorescent green Dayglow jumper on. And I thought it was absolutely, amazing because I love Dayglow colours and things, or at least I did in the 80s and 90s. And what I meant to say was absolutely fantastic jumper. But he got changed before he came out to meet everyone to do the meet and greet. And he put a pink one on instead. And so instead of saying, "I really love the green jumper," I said, "The pink was a bit of a mistake."
Oh, my God.
To which he went, "Well, you're not trying to challenge norms, are you?" And I just felt like,
oh my God.
And I just went in the corner and talked to Neil Malarkey for half an hour.
I remember I was in London once. I can't remember what the street was. It was one of the ones where everyone goes. And I saw Chris Moyles. And the first thing I thought was, Chris Moyles is shorter than I expected him to be. I don't know why I expected him to be some really tall person.
Yeah, the radio makes you look taller.
And as I was walking past him, I just felt this urge. I've got to talk to him. And what I should have said is, "Chris, I'm really sorry to interrupt. Can I just say hello and have your autograph?" And I just pointed at him and I just went, "Chris Moyles!" And then just kept walking. And he just went, "All right, fella." And that was it. And I just kept walking. And I remember I looked at my wife at the time and I was like, "Oh my God, I said I should have just said something better than that." That's all I could think of.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but he's much smaller than you think.
I met Brian May in a car park while we're name dropping.
Oh, you can fuck off now. Well, you've just won. You've just won car park.
We'd been down to Astrofest, and he'd been walking around all day, and I thought, I'm not going to get to say hello to him, even though I knew a couple of the organisers, and I'd met Brian Cox a couple of times. We'll go on to Brian Cox in a minute. I hadn't met Brian May, but I'd sort of seen him around, and I thought, I'm too cool to go up.
Were you just trying to meet as many Brians as possible?
It was a Brian day.
A Brian day, yeah.
Brian Blessed was waiting for us outside as well. No, so anyway, we go back to the car, and who is leaning up against the van we've hired to go down for the day but Brian May?
Oh, wow.
Which, just looking unbelievably cool. He just had a black trench coat on, Converse, and was just leaning up against the van, waiting for his assistant to go and fetch car. And so anyway, we get in a 20-minute conversation about the ridiculous cost of car parking charges in London.
Hang on, one of the world's most famous musicians.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we talk about that. And then his assistant arrives in this kind of, I think it was a metro or something like that, tiny little car, which he can barely get his hair in, and he, still aware that we're watching him, he kind of opens the door and says, "I can't get in this. Do you know who I am?" But he was absolutely delightful.
He was good enough for Princess Diana. That was her second car.
No, he was absolutely delightful, completely down to earth, and shook everyone's hand and
That's
said,
awesome.
"Nice to meet you," and everything. Which, like, who are we? Yeah.
I know, but if you think about it, when people are that famous, everybody is saying to them, "What's it like being in Queen?
Yeah.
What was Freddie Mercury like?
Yeah.
Tell me about Bohemian Rhapsody."
Yeah.
To actually have a normal conversation to you
we just talked about astronomy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was nice because it was a day out for him, kind of thing. So.
He's probably being podcast interviewed somewhere now, and they're saying, like, any interesting times you've met people in the past, and he said, "Well, there's
I met Kris Grainger in a car park."
Yeah, and we talked
moaned
about
the fact it was £48 to park for the day. Yeah.
And then I got in a Ferrari. He'll tell it differently, obviously.
It was definitely a dirty metro, and I thought he's going to be sitting at the traffic lights somewhere, and someone's going to go, "That's Brian May in a beat up 20-year-old metro."
Jesus. Did he have the big hair still? Well, he's always had the big hair, isn't he?
He did have the big hair, and at the time he was just transitioning from from dyeing it to not dyeing it.
Yeah.
And so it was just starting to have a hint of the badger.
Yeah.
As it were.
Yeah.
So,
he started off, I mean, my hair, I don't colour mine, and I want to say I never have, but I think I might have. But I've gone quite...
I had when I had hair, anyone who knows me will laugh at this bit now, but when I had hair, I had low lights in the 80s.
Wow. Because
I was a big Nick Kershaw fan, still am, and wanted to look like Nick Kershaw, so I had the mullet and the low lights.
Oh, wow.
And it really hurts when they're pulling your hair through that.
Is this when you had to wear the rubber cap thing? Yeah, I had that done.
That is agony.
And into a flat top that resembled Vanilla Ice. Remember when he had the flat top?
Nice.
I had it done. This was circa 1987.
Yeah.
I had it done, and it wrecks because they pull it through with a hook.
Yeah. It's really painful. That didn't last for long because I was like, I'm never having that done again. And obviously my hair was going, but I had my lovely hairdresser Wendy. She used to cut my hair frequently, and she knew that I was going to go bald because she used to feel the hair at the front, and she went, "Your hair at the front is really different to your hair at the back." Now, bearing in mind I'm sort of 13, 14 at the time, and I said, "What do you mean it's different?" And she went, "Well, it's a bit like pubes." So I went, thanks very much. And of course that was what went first.
So she already knew in your early
She could
teens.
tell that it was different hair at the front and that it was going to go. And at 21 it started going. My dad lost his at 15, interesting. But at 21 it started going, and by 30 I'd given up trying to hide the fact and just went...
You see, I've got a respectable head of hair for my age.
You have?
My dad's got a really good head of hair, but I suffer from something that my dad suffers from, which is a random thing now.
Yeah.
It's like, I think it's called, it's not alopecia universalis or one of them is the one where you lose all your hair.
Yeah.
But there's one where you get patchiness.
Oh, right.
Which is why I've got, obviously, in my beard there, I've got that one patch.
I didn't like to mention it.
I know. You didn't need to circle it with a marker pen either. I've got almost no leg hair. I'm going to show you my leg now.
Ooh.
Yeah, and my dad's the same. He's got almost complete... My dad's got the legs of a woman.
Might need a picture of that for in the description.
Yeah, just put people off their dinner. Yeah, but it's really weird. But I've got a really good head of hair.
Yeah.
And even though I've got that patch on my face, I couldn't grow a beard for absolutely donkey's years.
Wow.
And then lockdown just decided... I mean, I've had a shave now, but I grew a beard over lockdown.
Yeah.
I shaved it off because my girlfriend said I looked basically like a homeless person. And then she said, "Oh, grow it back." But the second time it grew back, it grew.
So she's going for that. She's digging that homeless chic thing.
Yeah, and then she just said, "Grow it back." But the second time it grew back within about 3 weeks, and it's really weird. So I've gone from no leg hair, but hairy toes, a full head of hair, patchy beard to full beard,
interesting,
and the armpits of a gibbon. It's very interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, I know there's that thing, isn't there? Is that once you start shaving, you'll always have to shave because once you start shaving, it encourages it and it grows back. But I always thought that was a bit of an old wives' tale. But maybe.
Well, I heard it's because the reason it feels coarser is because when you shave the end of the hair at an angle.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so my body's just as I'm getting older, my body is behaving and reacting in odd ways now. I remember going to the doctors, I think it was about 12 months ago, and saying I've got knee pain. And the doctor said, okay. And I said, what's wrong with me? And he just said, you're getting old. And I chuckled and I said, yeah, but what is it? Is it arthritis? Is it that old knee injury? And he went, no. He said, you're just at that stage now where things will just hurt and you have to
We weren't designed to live this long.
No. I definitely wasn't. No, but it's true, yeah. Because, I mean, I'd be an old man now in Victorian times.
Yeah.
I feel like an old man as it is now, but my life expectancy is another 30 years.
Yeah.
And I'm in pain now, so Christ knows what I'm going to feel like.
I know, it's terrible, isn't it? You hear old people moaning about their pains and aches and pains, and you go, no, I can see the gradual decline.
Yeah.
Oh, that was cheerful. Talking of decline, how's...
all that from Brian May's hair.
Talking of decline, how's lockdown been treating you?
Well, happy lockdown to you. Happy pandemic. I forgot to congratulate you on the pandemic. It's been good and bad. It's been bad from a work point of view, and obviously we all know people have been unwell, and that's obviously awful. But it's been the strangest time because it came from nowhere. I was playing pool with my friend Jeremy up at Longton, and we're sort of sipping beer and taking shots. And he said to me, "Have you heard about that thing going on in China?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's really awful, isn't it?" It's like, "Oh, your shot," and we carried on playing. 2 weeks later. That's it. Lockdown just happened. Yeah. And me and my girlfriend are sat in the garden. I think it was blistering sunshine, wasn't it, at the beginning of lockdown?
Oh, yeah.
And I feel embarrassed to say this. For the first few days, it was novel. It was weird. It's something we're not used to. So we're sitting there in the middle of the day drinking wine in the sun. And then it starts to soak in. Yep. And, but it's the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it?
Yeah,
COVID.
Definitely.
It's still just going on. And apparently now it's our way of life now. Moving forward.
This is the thing, isn't it? You question whether it would have been better locking down for longer in the initial stage to kind of try and eradicate the disease rather than control it. But I think let's not get too political and heavy here, but I think the government was under a lot of pressure from business to...
And now a health update from our political scientist, Kris Grainger, here to talk about what we should have done in March 2020.
We're all doomed.
It's messed up. It's messed up. I know it's affected a lot of people's mental health, and obviously that's terrible. I've been fortunate enough that I work from home, so
same here.
The upheaval in that regard hasn't been too bad. But the thing that's really impressed me the most is the kids, how they've all dealt with it. My kids, other people's kids. Yeah. Kids are so resilient. My youngest one said to me, she said, like, are we going to die from coronavirus? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, hopefully not. I said, but it's a real thing out there, and it is affecting people.
Yeah.
And she went, okay, no worries. And I just thought that innocence, but they've got the awareness, but they've got that resilience through their innocence as well.
Don't you think there's a parallel with in the 80s? I remember being in school, and I remember having one teacher, Miss Miles, now Mrs. Burnett, hello if you're listening, and she was convinced during the Cold War that we were going to have a nuclear war. It was going to happen. And I remember very much having that hanging over us, that there was this kind of terror of the end of the world hanging over us, and it was a genuine fear.
I remember
at the time.
that because that was the same time that Frankie Goes to Hollywood brought out Two Tribes. And I used
produced by Trevor Horn.
I used to hate the beginning of the song because they would obviously play the air attack warning sounds like, and then they play and then obviously and I used to find that terrifying because they're obviously talking about nuclear war, and we were terrified because where we lived in Cornwall, we weren't too far from a naval air station, and at a similar time the Americans bombed Libya, or we bombed Libya.
That's right.
And
everyone had to go at one point.
Yeah, and the jets refueled at the airbase that was near us. So we're on the school playground watching Harriers and Tornadoes going off to go and do their business in the Middle East. It's terrifying.
But kids are great at getting your fear level up even more, because the story from our point of view was, oh, well, we're right near Stafford RAF, which is the biggest nuclear stockpile in Europe, so that'll be the first to go, kind of thing. And you're like, oh, really? And it's probably not true at all, but it's just like kids will find a way of making a bad situation even worse, kind of thing.
I can sort of imagine Mikhail Gorbachev sat at his desk going, well, we've obviously got New York, Baltimore, Washington, Stafford.
Don't forget Stafford.
I don't think that was high on their list, but I suppose everywhere in the UK there's a military base, so everyone had that fear, and we had it. Like now you've got RAF Stafford, you've got Cosford, or I think Stafford's MOD now, obviously, but it was terrifying time. Yeah.
I don't know why I'm laughing. It was horrible at the time.
You're like, it was horrible. Nuclear Armageddon.
And now I spend quite a bit of my spare time visiting defunct nuclear Cold War bunkers, which is quite interesting. Yeah, have you been up to Hack Green?
No.
Oh, you should go.
Is it good?
I wouldn't say it's a family day out, but it's a family day in, definitely. It's fascinating and terrifying at the same time. I was going to say,
but it's got a horrible vibe about it, hasn't it?
It's very chilling. Weird vibe, and there's one room that they recommend you don't take children in, where it's kind of a surgical room, and there's kind of people making scream noises and things. I won't go into too much detail, but it is quite shocking. But then again, it's fascinating to see all the old equipment and everything, and thinking, wow, this was the technology, and they actually built 50 of these or so across the UK in order to kind of shield people. So,
oh my God! So you saw the movie Threads, then? I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. They show it there, actually.
Oh,
you can watch it. You can watch it there. And they've also got a room which simulates being in a bunker in a war with things going on outside. And
oh, God.
Yeah. It's a great day out. No, it really...
Alton Towers or the decommissioned nuclear site.
Yeah, definitely. But it is worth a visit, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's awesome.
So, from underground to overground.
Yeah.
Not wobbling free. Brian Cox, we mentioned in passing when we were talking about Brian
you've
May.
Met him?
A couple of times. A friend of mine, Mandy, she used to organise, to be involved in organising Astrofest in London, so met him a couple of times, and a friend Keaton used to be his producer on Stargazing and things like that. So not name dropping, but you used to do a bit of Brian in your routine, didn't you?
Yeah, it was the strangest thing the first time I did it, because I'd never done any sort of impersonations. It's bad enough trying to do something for the first time that you think might be funny, but then to throw in your feeble attempt at a celebrity impression as well. But it was all born of the fact that I really got into watching his TV shows, the Wonders of the Universe, the Solar System, all these things. And the thing that always stuck out for me was how terrifying the statistics were that he would read out. I mean, he talks about, how far this planet is away or how many galaxies there are. Yeah. And there was, I'm going to do the voice now, don't you?
Please do.
Very poorly. But I think it was Wonders of the Solar System where he sort of introduces the program, and he said, we live on a planet in a galaxy of 6 billion stars, in a universe of 600 billion galaxies, and you can fit our planet into the sun 1.35 million times, and that's amazing. And it blew me away, because his head is computing all of that data, as well as being an astrophysicist and working at the CERN facility on the collider and everything. But
that's a good gig, isn't it?
Yeah. But how do you deal with that type of knowledge? Because I know you can have the flat earthers and the people that, whatever, say it's not real. Yeah. But the fact that there genuinely are more stars in the universe than there are grains of sand on our planet. Yeah. And when you think about just one beach, you think, well, surely that can't be true. Yeah. And it got me doing so much research into stuff to do with the universe and the Milky Way and stuff. And I didn't realise that stars are several 100,000 times bigger than our sun, a regular star.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I did the strangest Google searches you do when you've had too much wine, which if I typed in, if you fired a bullet and it could travel in a straight line for eternity, what would it hit? And it said there's only a 0.001% chance it will hit anything other than debris, because the expanses and sizes are so vast that the gaps between are vast also. Wow. So whereas you think, you're going to bump into planets and stars left, right, and centre. You really won't. There's just so much space in space. Yeah. But yeah, the Brian Cox thing, it fascinates me. So I did the routine, which always went quite well, and I'll probably do more because I like the guy. He's fascinating.
It was a lot of fun.
It's no John Culshaw, my impression, but people get the gist of who I'm trying to do, hopefully.
Brilliant. You're listening to A Couple of Drips. Why? Why would you do that? Are you okay? Oh well, you're here now. As you were. So, one of the things you wanted to talk about, Danny, was what's been happening in your life recently. I believe that you've recently got engaged.
Yes, yeah. It's the strangest thing, because when you're planning to get married, as a man, there's this expectation, right, well, I love this woman and, I want to spend the rest of my life with her, and you plan this amazing proposal, whether it's going to be elaborate or very simple. Yeah. My situation was very different, because on my birthday, which was in September, I had a lovely day with my girlfriend, presents and nice, lunch out and everything. And she said, I want to take you for dinner to Moddershall Oaks.
Nice.
Which is obviously a fantastic venue.
Great venue.
So we got there, and there was champagne on ice waiting for us, courtesy of them, which I thought was really nice. And we had a really nice meal, and we sat talking about the usual stuff you talk about over dinner, things to do with, well, let's face it, we were talking about the pandemic. And then at the end of the meal, I said... It does
seem to be on a few people's minds at the moment.
Yeah, and it's how I love celebrating my birthday with a good old pandemic chat.
Absolutely.
And I said, right, listen, let's get the bill. So the bill came, I paid the bill, and we sat just having a little bit more of a chat. And my girlfriend just reached down into her handbag and pulled out an envelope and just slid it across the table to me, like some sort of spy sending, passing over some orders. And I
Cash
thought,
for questions.
Yeah. And I thought, well, I hope this is your contribution towards dinner, but it turns out it wasn't. And I thought maybe it's like another card or like a voucher. Yeah. And so I opened it, and there's a card, and on the front of it is people chinking 2 champagne glasses. And inside it's addressed to me, and there's this very, very beautiful poem. I can't remember it word for word, and I won't even try to remember it. But I remember the last 2 lines were, it was something along the lines of, you're an amazing person. I'm so glad to have you in my life, and I just can't wait to be your wife. And I thought, that's dead sweet.
That's sweet, isn't it?
And I put the card on the table, and I went, oh, thanks. And she just stared at me. And she goes, did you read it? And I went, yeah. And she goes, what do you think? I said, it's really sweet. I said, oh, thanks ever so much. And she went, are you sure you read it? And I went, yeah. I went, do you want me to read it again? And she went, yeah. So I read it, and it was, you're a lovely person, blah, 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 blah. I'm so glad to have you in my life, and I just can't wait to be your wife. And I went, oh, thanks.
Thanks. Still, did you realise at this point you were missing something?
No, not at all. No. I just thought maybe I should be making a bit more of a fuss about how good the poem was.
It was a really nice card.
It was a really nice card. The words were beautiful, right? And poetry's not lost on me at all. No. But I thought, well, I don't know quite how much you want me to gush about this, but I think I've done sufficient.
Sufficient gushage.
It's a good poem, but, I'm not going to high-five you or anything. No. And then,
not in the middle of the
Not in the middle of dinner, no. And then she just reached down into her bag and just dropped in front of me a little box. Oh. And I thought, oh, God, it's another gift, Yeah. And my first thought was, I bet it's cufflinks.
Oh, yeah.
And I've only got one shirt that would need cufflinks.
Me too.
Which is
and
for
about
a dinner
10
jacket.
Pairs of cufflinks.
Exactly, which I never wear.
No.
So my first thought was, I don't want any bloody cufflinks, so I'm going to have to act as if I like these cufflinks.
Yeah.
And she goes, are you going to open it then? And so I opened it, and inside it was this ring that you can now see,
Very
which is
nice.
a thin...
Platinum? Is that platinum?
I don't know. It might be tin. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
A metal band, white, gold, whatever.
It's very nice, anyway.
It is. And
it does suit you.
And I just thought, okay, she's bought me a piece of jewellery.
Yeah.
She then put another ring box on the table, which she opened, and in it were 2 sparkling engagement rings. Not 1, 2.
2.
And so I'm now flummoxed, and the couple on the table, well, I say adjacent to us, social distancing, they were 4.5 miles away.
Of course,
they were in another restaurant.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the woman went, "Oh my God, have you?" And my girlfriend went, "Yeah." And I was thinking, has she what? And the woman went, "Oh my God, what's he said?" And she went, "Nothing yet." And I was looking.
He's just sort of bemused.
Well, I had the face of a dog trying to read the Bible. It was like I was looking from Paula to this
other
woman.
religious texts are available.
Absolutely, yeah. But the Bible's the favourite. I was going left to right, and the man that was with this other woman, you could see the look on his face. He was thinking, Dana's not got a flipping clue what's going on. And I really didn't. Yeah. Then I started to get the gist. But then I went into panic mode because I thought, well, am I now supposed to propose to her? Is that what she's done? Has she given me a ring?
Yeah, has she given you the forum to...
But then this woman went, well, it is a leap year. And part of me was...
Was it actually Feb the 29th when this happened?
No, September the 4th. But apparently it works all year.
Okay.
Right. I'm all for equality.
Yeah.
A woman...
I think that's probably right. Otherwise the restaurants would be very busy.
Yeah.
And they've only just recovered from Valentine's.
Exactly. And I think women should be able to propose. I've got nothing against that. But typically when a man proposes to a woman, he says, "Will you marry me?" And the woman just instinctively squeals and says, typically, yes. I don't think men expect it. And
no, absolutely.
And I still... So we're about 6 minutes in at this point, right?
Yeah.
And, excuse my language, I haven't got a fucking clue what's going on. I really haven't at this point. And the woman and the man can see that I've got no idea. Yeah. And then Paula says to me, "Will you?" And I went, "Will I what?" And she went, "Well, will you marry me?" And I was staring at these rings, honestly, utterly confused. Yeah. And I went, "Yeah." And everyone, the whole restaurant then just went crazy. Apparently they were all in on it. All the staff were in on it.
Yeah. Hugh Grant's applauding in the corner.
Absolutely. Yeah, Liz Taylor was there.
Fantastic.
Got married that many times. Yeah. And so we left. And on the journey home, Paula's phoning everyone saying, he said yes. Because everybody knew. My whole family, her family, my kids. Everybody knew apart from me. 20 minutes after the event, I was sat on the sofa at home and Paula said to me, she said, "Do you actually understand what's going on yet?" And I went, "Yeah." So I've just about got the gist of it. And it was the strangest. I'm over the moon. Loved her bits. She's awesome. Can't wait to get married. But it's the strangest thing to feel like you're the only person that hasn't got a clue what's going on, yet it affects you 50%. Of the partnership.
Yeah.
It was the strange...
It's that kind of rabbit in the headlights scenario, isn't it?
But more expensive in the long term.
So, information overload, kind of... Yeah.
So I mean, and I'm over the moon. I'm over the moon. It turned out to be an extremely expensive dinner because that venue is now where we're going to get married as well.
Fantastic. Well, it's a great place. I've had an afternoon tea there, and it's amazing.
It's really good. Whether or not
how middle class is that?
Well, whether or not we're going to be able to actually have a wedding there is...
Yeah. Have you set a date?
It's shit. She'll hear this. January the 29th. 26th or 29th, 2022.
Okay, so if you're heading to Modrishall Oaks, that's the date to head.
Yeah, that's when you gate crash. That's when you gate. But I don't know whether or not we're going to be able to have a wedding yet.
Yeah, well, hopefully by 2022, because my War of the Worlds tickets have got put back till 2022.
It'll either...
It's not quite as exciting as your wedding, but almost.
Well, the thing is, though, you knew the War of the Worlds show was coming. I didn't know the wedding was coming.
No, fair enough.
It's still...
Haven't had an invite yet, just saying.
Just so you know. No, you're on the list. You're on the list
just
already. Don't start that with me, you big tart. You're already on the list. Shit, put Kris on the list. No, it's the strangest thing. I didn't think I'd ever get married again. Yeah. Obviously, one marriage under my belt. I just thought, that's it. If I meet somebody, we probably won't get married. Yeah. And that's what made it much more of a surprise.
Is this the fifth wedding?
You sort of lose count after a while, don't you? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll probably keep this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, You got to settle down eventually.
I think between Paula and I, we've got more rings than the Olympic symbol. You
Nice.
know, I think that'll be true. By the time we get married, I think that'll be it. No, it's great. Yeah, she's great. We met in January. I think if you can endure lockdown and come out the other side of it, still.
You only met in January.
End of January, yeah.
Nice.
So I think you get I was after I separated from my ex-wife. I think I was on my own for a couple of years. You know, I dated and stuff like that. But the great thing about dating is you see somebody and you go out, nice meals, drinks, whatever. And if it doesn't work out, you just ghost each other. But you just say it's not working out. You go back to that solitude you've become accustomed to. But then when you meet somebody and you know, right, well, this is going to be a long-term thing.
And of course, the great thing about being a divorcee is that you can use having to pick your kids up from school as an excuse to get out of a bad date, of course.
Do you know what? I used to have... my girlfriend hates me talking about this. When I was dating, I used to have this thing... It's going to make me sound like such an idiot, and I hate saying it, but it's really true. I used to have a 2-hour date rule.
Okay.
And I used to tell somebody...
Oh, this is interesting.
I'm
taking notes.
I used to tell people when we'd arranged to go on a date, I'd say I have a 2-hour date rule. And it's not born of arrogance or a high opinion of myself. It's basically because...
Kind of get out of jail free card.
If the date's going awful,
you
know that you can at least go home and maybe have a glass of wine and watch Would I Lie to You?
Yeah.
If the date's going amazing, you're going to go home thinking, I want more. And then you'll look forward to seeing each other again. But you're not trapped in a 3.5. And everybody I told thought it was an amazing idea. But it sounds really arrogant, and it isn't. It's not because I've got a high opinion of myself or anything.
No.
Or, like, you're only entitled to 2 hours of my special time. It's just we've all been on awful dates.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than thinking, how do I get out of this?
Yeah.
And I went on a date in Uttoxeter with a lady. She was really nice, but we just didn't gel. But we had a really pleasant time.
Yeah.
I remember her saying, she said, I've just looked at the clock. She said, it says I've only got like 5 minutes left. And I just said, it's actually 3. And she said, you really do this, don't you? And I went, yeah. And then bang on 2 hours, I said, right, should we make a move? And it's not rude. I think it's a really good way to do it. It's like an extended speed dating.
Yeah, I'm going to go at the 2-hour point, and then there's no awkward excuses or you asking me if I'm going to come back to yours or whatever. And it gives you that cut-off zone. Yeah,
but I'm glad.
Did you break the rule for anyone at all?
Paula.
Yeah, brilliant.
And I think she said to me, we've gone over 2 hours, and I said, oh God, it sounds so cheesy. I said, I'm not even watching the time anymore.
I hadn't even noticed it was raining.
But it's just so special together. You just lose track of time. We share time now. First date was like over 3 hours, and then that was it. And then we were sort of fairly inseparable from then on. So
and then moved in very quickly as well due to lockdown.
Yeah, it's because I think we sort of had 2-3 days, didn't we, where we knew the lockdown was coming.
Yeah,
but there was no sort of definitive.
Yeah, I was at work and I developed an interesting cough, shall we say? And I took a few days off sick, and then never went back because the next week the university actually, credit to them, shut down a week before the national lockdown. They decided no, we're not having it. Kind of thing. So, but I was based in the library, so I encountered about 2,000 students a day.
Yeah.
And developed an interesting cough and headache, which wasn't one of the symptoms originally, but they upgraded the symptoms later on.
But the interesting thing is going to be when the vaccine comes out is, are we going to be made to have it, or is it going to be optional? Because I think the riots and the protests about our freedom and lockdown are going to be...
Well, of course, the anti-vaxxers are jumping right on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
With that. I've already seen posts about, will the vaccine be safe? Well, if it's approved and released, yes, it will.
Yeah. But
That's why they test vaccines.
Yeah. Is Bill Gates injecting a chip into my arm to track what I'm doing? And will they be able to see through my eyes when I'm online if I have the vaccine? You know?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, people can follow me, trace me.
5G masts are spreading the virus.
Yeah. I don't care if the government watched me going to the toilet, as long as I don't get coronavirus and it doesn't kill anyone I know. Well, give me the vaccine. I'll take it in the eyeball. I don't care.
There's this thing for years about, all people can watch you through your camera on your laptop and people are spying on your data and that. If any government agents think my life is that interesting that they want to watch me, be my guest, because my life is not that interesting that you're going to pay someone to sit in an office and watch me 24/7.
My late night YouTube search history would be enough to just... I think not last night, the night before, how long are you allowed to have a shower for on a submarine?
Wow.
That's my YouTube search.
And I thought me watching, retro audio stuff and James Hoffman's Coffee Channel was bad, but you're...
I was watching Dirk Benedict and Dwight Schultz from the A-Team being interviewed 20 years after the series finished on Dutch TV the other night for something to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll watch anything. So, yeah, if the government wants to watch that, knock yourselves out. I've got no issue with that.
Fantastic. Well, just before we go, Danny, I like to throw a question out to all of my interviewees.
Uh-oh.
It's a multiple choice. But hopefully invokes some kind of discussion. And the topic is pants or boxers.
Ooh, well, I've got a hybrid. Are they called jersey shorts?
Yeah, they are.
They're like pant shorts.
Yeah.
What are they called? Jersey shorts?
Jersey shorts, yeah. I'll accept that.
I haven't worn boxer shorts.
And is that your everyday choice, or do you fluctuate?
Everyday choice.
Oh, okay.
Everyday choice.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I don't think...
You don't feel like some days you need more support, some days you need less?
At my age, I'm just glad to know that things are just where they're supposed to be. I think the last time I wore a pant itself was...
A pant?
I'm going to call it a pant, yeah.
Singular.
This is going to sound so random. I was working in Hinckley, and I left a job, and at the end of my last day, we all went to the pub. And for some reason, I thought it'd be funny to wear a leather thong to work that day. And I don't know why I had a leather thong in the first place.
No.
And at no stage...
I mean, that does present more questions than it answers,
yeah,
really.
But I can't answer the questions, because I actually still have those questions myself. Why did I have a thong pant in the first place? Why wear it to a leaving do when there's no way anyone's going to see it? I was happily married at the time. And
maybe you were reaching out.
I don't know. I think I was probably falling out.
Yeah.
But what are you? I've got you down as a punt man.
Well, you see, now this is interesting because when we were doing a test recording for this series, I posed this question with my good friend Jamie Summerfield, and he sort of rocked my world and challenged my conventions, as it were. I've always been, for many years, as a child, you always wear pants. That's the choice. You don't buy your underwear yourself. That's what you're given. But for many years, ever since your first girlfriend buys you some because she can't stand you wearing the Superman underpants that you had since you were 12, and you really shouldn't be wearing those at 23. When your girlfriend buys you your first pair of boxers, it's a revelation. It's like,
the airiness,
freedom, airiness. But then as you move past 30, sometimes I feel you need a little support.
Yep.
And so, up until quite recently, Jamie was talking about how he likes the freedom of the boxer on a long walk.
Oh my God, I'd be the opposite.
But then the next day, likes the support. So I've actually shook up my wardrobe a little bit, and now I've got a mixture of
So hold on, so back up. So Jamie's essentially mildly injuring himself on a walk at the expense of freedom.
On a warm summer day, he likes the air to circulate.
But he knows that the next day he'll regret it.
The next day...
Jamie, you're an interesting cat.
Next day they have a little bit of help.
They need a rest day.
Yeah.
Wow.
So now I've stepped it up, and I have a mixture of the standard boxers and the boxer briefs now. But I would never go for the pants, I don't think.
So hold on. So what constitutes a jersey day versus a boxer day then?
To be honest, it's pretty much how I'm feeling.
You started this like there was some massive science, and then you're just do whatever.
No, it's just like how I feel. Let's put it this way: if it's been a particularly amorous day the day before, shall we say, then I might go for the support. But on a warm day, you don't want that.
There's too much imagery now.
You don't want the whole thing like bundled up.
There's too much imagery now. My girlfriend wears my underwear though.
Oh, that's weird. Now my girlfriend wears my T-shirts at night as night shirts and looks fucking better in them than I do.
Your girlfriend doesn't wear my T-shirts, obviously.
No. I've tried to stop her. But
do you find that her wearing your clothes, because like the T-shirt you're wearing now, if you saw her wearing that, do you get annoyed because it looks good on her?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. They look better on her than they do on me.
Yeah.
And for some reason, she's got some fantastic nightwear, but what does she walk around the flat in? My T-shirts.
Yeah. Now my girlfriend will put my underwear on, and one of my T-shirts.
You see, she's never worn my underwear, but she's quite petite, and I'm not. So
all right, this is not multiple choice, right?
Okay.
But on the subject of underwear, right? If my underwear, and I've worn it, and then it's gone into the wash, being washed and then dried, would you consider that underwear to be clean?
Yeah.
So would you, in an emergency, would you wear my underwear?
No.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because I wouldn't wear obviously I wouldn't wear my girlfriend's underwear, but I find it weird that she would want to wear my underwear, even though I know it's clean. Yeah. It's been washed and dried and it's all perfectly hygienic, as you'd expect anyone's underwear to be. Yeah. But it's his own.
Are you absolutely sure you wouldn't wear her underwear?
I don't know.
And on that point, Danny,
that's for another day,
Yeah, absolutely. So, Danny, where can people find you? Are you still performing?
No, at the moment, I had to cancel a gig. I was supposed to do a gig in Audley a few weeks ago, but I was feeling a bit under the weather, and there were still some social distancing concerns. But it's hit the comedy industry really hard, as it's hit a lot of the arts at the moment. So one of the things that comedians, whether you're the real lower levels like me or the more talented guys out there, you need an audience, and it's that platform that people are really missing at the moment. So people aren't gigging as much. There's a lot of online content for people to see. So in terms of seeing me, if anybody did, and I'm not sure why anybody would really desperately want to see me when there's so much talent out there, but it's really just keeping an eye on Facebook, because when we all start to get back,
do you use Twitter or anything like that?
I'm not that technologically minded, I'm afraid. I'm just a Facebook
okay, well,
guy.
I'll put a link to your Facebook in the description.
Thanks, man. And hopefully we'll all be out there gigging again soon, because
that would be great. Have you any plans to do an online gig, sort of get 3 or 4 comedians together and do an online gig?
You're very technically minded. I'm not, so I don't sort of have that instinct to want to put something together. But there's obviously around here, there's like Dave Tomlinson. There's Helen. There's Adam and other people. I'm not sure who would do it.
Yeah, we can do remote gigs. We can pull people in on phones and on laptops and stuff. So.
These guys, that they need, and I know it's not safe to do it, and we obviously have to respect that. But these, I don't make a living from doing comedy. I've got my own job. Comedy is something I enjoy doing, and I'm never going to get rich out of it. But the guys out there that make a living out of it, they're the ones I feel sorry for. So Scott Bennett, for example, does a podcast called Comedy from the Shed. That live streams. Chris Purchase is doing online comedy. I know John Pearson. These are all my Facebook friends. You'll see they're all tagging themselves. Adam Rowe. Rob Mulholland. They're all doing comedy online at the moment.
Fantastic. We've got to try and keep it alive, because it doesn't look. It's not looking promising for arts venues and funding.
Yeah. Exactly. But the one thing I will say, the ROFL club we mentioned at the beginning, ROFL, ROFL, whatever you want to say, their website's up and running, and you can still go and see their gigs. I think it's a tenner a ticket at Newcastle.
Brilliant.
And they have top comedians on, and they've got all the social distancing. So if people do want to go and see some live comedy, get yourself up to Newcastle. I'm not on commission, by the way. It's just a good venue.
Brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic. Well, Danny, it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you'll come along in the future and do another one at some point.
Absolutely,
and drink my coffee. I hope you've enjoyed listening, and tune in next time for a couple of drips. I've been Kris Grainger. Thank you, Danny Davies.
Thanks,
and
man. Stay
I'll
safe,
see
everyone.
you next time. Stay safe, guys.
Take it easy.
You've been listening to A Couple of Drips. The show was conceived and presented by Kris Grainger and is a Cup the Mic production.